Awesome.
Awesome.
All right. Good evening, everybody. It's an amazing night. We're actually in 3 different parts of the world right now. I have a very special friend with us. He's an amazing outdoor enthusiast and was instrumental to my transformation personally. Mark Petersen. He's here joining us in Marketing Brothers with my brother Carlos. We're actually, like I said, in 3 parts of the United States. Mark is in Utah. Carlos is in Colorado, in Denver, and I'm in close to San Francisco. So we're bringing you, and our audience is everywhere in the world. So it's kind of fitting, So welcome, Mark.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here, Carlos. You and I haven't engaged too much, but it's good to meet you. And this is I'm honored to be here, and can't wait to hear what you have as questions and topics tonight.
Thanks, Mark. We are so appreciative for you joining us. Ricardo has told me a lot about you. I've read your bio, man, and you have quite the rap sheet, my friend, which is really exciting to see. And just so you have a little bit of background, and for the people that are tuning in maybe for the first time, Marketer Brothers is a passion project between my brother and I that we started as an honor to my dad that passed away earlier this year. He was a serial entrepreneur, somebody that was from very humble beginnings, a fighter, very courageous man, beat cancer twice in his life, and he built and rebuilt his business time and time again. So the goal really of Marketer Brothers is to add value to the lives and the businesses of entrepreneurs all over the world. And one of the big things that comes with being an entrepreneur is our mindsets, our heart, and where our heart and our mind is at any given time, that gives us the resilience and the endurance to go and start a business and persevere and never quit. And that's why we like to have people like yourself on this channel that really exemplify that. So if you could please just tell us a little bit about yourself. Where were you born? Where you grew up? We know that you're a veteran. Thank you for your service. And also that along the way, you have also been an entrepreneur, and you have helped a lot of people kind of achieve and overcome their challenges. So welcome.
Thank you, Carlos. And my condolences about the loss of your father. And kudos on you brothers for dedicating what you're doing right now in these interviews to what the legacy that your father left behind. Obviously, I haven't had a chance to spend time with you, but I've watched your amazing brother go through some very difficult times, and he has exemplified exactly what you're talking about as it relates to resiliency and grit. And putting up with a lot of things. So it's an honor for me to talk about those opportunities. You say I introduced myself. I don't really know where to start. I've been very blessed to have had a lot of opportunities in my life. One of those was serving in the military. I was a combat medic in the Army, 82nd Airborne, and I was in the military I was in the reserves. So I was only a few years active duty, but I was in the reserves because you want to talk about entrepreneurship. Nothing pushes entrepreneurship better than being married and have kids, and you've got to provide for them, right? So even from the very beginning of me being married and having kids, just a job isn't usually enough. Especially when you're young and getting started, every side gig that I could do, I was doing. And if it involved the outdoors, especially, I was doing it. I was teaching combat handgun instruction. I was building furniture. I like to build cedar strip canoes. I'm a blacksmith. So every year I would do as many side projects as I could to just make money. And I think the entrepreneurial spirit is, people do what they have to do to make a living for themselves. I don't think that every entrepreneur that is out there in the world says, okay, this is the business that I've always wanted to do in my life, I'm going to do that. I read stories of people like Goodyear, who is, obviously the founder of one of the largest tire and rubber manufacturing companies in the world. He didn't wake up one day when he was 14 years old and said, I want to be a rubber magnet. I want to make rubber tires. He just had a dream and a goal that he wanted to do something with his life and provide for his family, and it just happened to be tires. So for me, a lot of the things that I've done, it just happened to be something that I came across and turned out I was good at, and it was all with the idea that I just need to provide for my family.
Yeah. So
mountain guiding was a big part of my life, and is still a big part of my life. And it's just turns out I'm just good at it. And by that, it's not about, hey, how strong are you or how fit you are, because when you're at 19,000 feet standing on the top of Kilimanjaro or some other tall mountain, there's a lot that got that person there. And it's not about strength. Sometimes certain people have genetics that work really well with your body's and your cells' ability to oxygenate. So maybe I'm the type of person that doesn't get altitude sickness as quick as somebody else. Maybe I'm the type of person who can resist frostbite or hypothermia better than somebody else. Maybe I was just in the right place at the right time with the right weather conditions. Yeah. But I have been very fortunate enough to stand on the top of 6 of the tallest summits on every continent. So I've summited 6 of the 7 summits, and I made an announcement in a podcast a couple of weeks ago that Everest is in my sights again, and I might complete that task in 2024. And so I'm hoping that the next time we talk, or maybe a few years from now, I'll be able to say I've summited 7 of the 7 summits. So
that's the only one that you have left?
That's the only one I had left. And I will say that I had an opportunity, let's say 2002, fully sponsored to do it. We made a trip in 2000, a group of climbers and I made a trip in 2000 to, no, sorry, it was 1999, late 1999, to Everest Base Camp. And I was so disgusted at what I saw that I made this self-righteous decision that I wasn't going to be part of all the trash, all of the, you got to remember, this was the days of the .com CEOs, and all the CEOs of these .com companies were just paying money, whatever they had to pay to get to the top of the summit, so they could say, yeah, this is why you should trust me. I'm a Everest. I've summited Everest, and I'm a mountaineer. And they were on oxygen probably the whole time. They didn't carry their own packs, carry all their stuff. And yeah, I mean, they had to be out there. They had to sleep on hard ground, and they had to move through time and space to get there. But they were supported the whole way. When they got cold, somebody took care of them. When they got hungry, somebody gave them something to eat. They definitely weren't tying their own knots. They definitely didn't know land navigation. They were just, it was sort of like they were hosted to the top. Mm-hmm. And I saw a lot of that. And I also saw a lot of the repression that the local Sherpa community is exposed to there. And it's not akin to some of the definitions of slavery that we know of, but they don't have their freedom of choice, let's say it that way. So whether you want to call it slavery or some indentured servitude or whatever it is, they don't have the choice to just leave the job, if you know what I mean. It's or leave their communities. So I made the decision at that time that I wasn't going to do it, and I'd already summited the other 6 continental high points, and so I just said Everest is not for me, and I made a decision. But I think I was being selfish at that time, and I've made a sort of a reversal of my original decision. Because I think that instead of me boycotting that because it's wrong, maybe I should be part of the fix.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, no, you're absolutely right, man. And you know what you're saying, man. It really resonates because yes, you one thing is being supported the entire time. You know, it's a little bit like the journey that I was fortunate enough for that to be with you and you be the leader of that, where you you know in the Spartan Agogi, which is what you know where I met you, where I had the honor to meet you in Vermont, is it was an event where all you knew it's you just know that it's gonna be 60 hours. It's gonna be you have a gear list. You gotta know the knots. You gotta know waterproofing. You gotta know different things like that. But but you're not only being self-supported, but you're also, maybe not, the word is not expected, but you're there to be a teammate. You know, you're there to help the other people around you, not just be a selfish. And I think it was you or somebody gave us this little speech saying that the only way to finish something like that is as a team. You know, helping each other, being present. And I remember very clearly, man, in Mongolia, you made us at the end of it. You gave us, I think it was 60 seconds to line up, and we had injured people. We were carrying people at that point. People were had twisted ankles, everything. And you gave us 60 seconds and we couldn't do it, you know, and then, you know, we got punished for it. And then you gave us less time and you kept giving us less time until I think it was like 26 seconds we were able to do it. So we had the right motivation, and that's you gave us a strong lesson, which is you gotta be a teammate. And if we all work as a group and we all do an accomplishment together, that's what's meaningful. That's what becomes the learning experience and being able to draw experience energy from other people. And you know, that's the, you know, when you're saying about that, you know, it doesn't feel right when it's just somebody goes and shows up and everything's carried for them and you're just going there to take a selfie and say that you actually made it, you know?
Right. And to speak to what you just spoke about, the ability to get in formation in 60 seconds was always there. You always had the ability, but there was something missing. And you guys, and I don't know which one it was at the time. Was it communication? Was it motivation? Was it self-preservation? Were you not worried about what was going on around you? But you're 100% right. When everybody decided that was what had to happen, you guys were able to do it in half the time that I originally gave you the first time.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's the case with probably everything we do in life, if you think about it, because we're able to do things when we really want to do them that we normally would not ever consider possible. And that's one of the greatest things that I find, not just with the Spartan Agogi, which you were a part of, but and with mountaineering, but with everything that I experienced. I've seen people, yourself included, accomplish things that they had no ability to do or inclination to do when they very first arrived. But something changed.
Mm-hmm.
Something changed, and you found the ability to do it. It's amazing to me to see the accomplishments of people when they realize that they can do anything.
Yeah. What do you think it does to somebody? Because look, I've been a witness of my brother's change over the years when he started doing Spartan races and then increasingly harder challenges for himself.
Sure.
And I've seen him become, honestly, a completely different person that he was, I don't know, Ricardo, 5 years ago? Even?
Yeah. 4. Yeah.
Yeah, not only physically, but mentally, emotionally. So what are some of the things that you've seen as part of your experience guiding people and helping people and challenging people that have really made you think, oh, wow, I love what I do. This is awesome. Maybe there are too many to count, but I'm sure there's some highlights.
All right. So I guess maybe here's one little comment that I'll make. And I've had the opportunity to see a lot of people transform themselves into kind of where they are now, or to a better place. And let me give you kind of maybe a strange example. A lot of times the obstacles that we face are less obvious than we think. Okay, so a Spartan race is pretty simple in the fact that you run and there's a wall. Okay, that's your obstacle. That's very definable. It's an 8-foot wall. It's this big. It's this. I got to do this, and you know exactly what muscles you need to use. You use finesse, and maybe you've never gone over an 8-foot wall before, and you have to find some courage. You have to find some grit. You have to find some determination, and you get over that wall, and the look of happiness that person has on their face and the confidence that they just gained, now they can go tackle the next obstacle. But what about if the obstacle is not clearly defined? And what if the obstacle is not physical, or it's not in front of you? Give you an example is in the Agoge. Let me not say what Agoge it was, because I don't want this person to feel bad. But there was an Agoge where this individual had showed up, and during the course of the Agoge, like at the end of the Agoge, he was going through a divorce, and that divorce was going to be final pretty much within hours of the Agoge ending. And him doing the Agoge was kind of like him celebrating a new freedom and a new start on life. And he was hoping when the Agoge was over, he'd be a changed person, and he'd be single now, and he could go out and conquer his life. But during the Agoge, he realized maybe he wasn't as good of a team player as he thought he was. He realized maybe I'm not as good at communication, because his team kept failing in simple communication tasks. And it dawned on him, maybe I haven't all along, not just the Agoge, not just during the 60 hours, but maybe in my marriage, I haven't been as good of a team player or partner as I should have been. Maybe the communication problems that I think are about my marriage are really about me. Maybe the failings are a little deeper. And as soon as the Agoge was over, like, let me borrow a phone, let me borrow a phone, let me borrow a phone. And he had to take a car to where there was a phone and called his lawyer and called it off.
Wow. Called
the divorce off, because whether or not maybe she didn't even want to stay married, I don't know. But at this point in time, he realized it wasn't her. The problem wasn't her. The problem wasn't, it may not have even been anything, but sometimes there's these invisible barriers or invisible obstacles. So the example I gave of the 8-foot wall, that's very physical, very right in your face. You know exactly what to do. But maybe people don't know what to do when they don't have words to say or a good way to communicate. But so this person ended the Agoge with a completely different mindset about what marriage was like, and what that was all about. And it just reminds me that I think we go through different perspectives in our lives that only come about when we're tested, and when those tests pull something out of us that we didn't even know existed. And so I think that's where Spartan Race changes people, because, it's not a 5K, it's not a 10K. You need, and you need other people. How many times during a Spartan race, I'm not talking about the pros, but how many times during a Spartan race do you get a push, a little help? How many times during a Spartan race do you just get a clap? Hey, good job. And at the end, that motivates you maybe you totally bombed it. Maybe, you know, you're coming over the wall and you're doing a rope climb and you come down and you burn your hands because you didn't use the right footlock technique, or you fall into the mud, but you rang the bell, but you didn't do it with a lot of poise or grace, and someone claps and says, "Hey man, good job." That propels you further down the road. So Spartan Race is a lot like that, but then Agoge takes it completely to a different level, as well as Hurricane Heat, because you realize, because Spartan Race is largely an individual sport, right? Mm-hmm. You get big team awards and stuff like that, but your team isn't climbing the rope, you are. So, but Agoge, completely different. No one succeeds in an event like that as an individual. And I would also offer mountaineering as the same. I mean, look at river rafting, right? Everybody in the boat has to paddle. There's not that guy that's just sitting with his oar going through serious rapids going, yeah, they got me. I don't really need to do anything. That person's putting the oar in the water and giving it everything they got.
Yeah. So how do you think we could, there's got to be a way, because, you know, of course, as it is, Spartan Race and many of the stream sports, people tend to shy away from, because whatever, danger or you know, for of course most people, man, showing up 60 hours in mountains somewhere, it's insane, you know. So, but how do you think we could translate that knowledge or that transformation through struggle or through however it is that happens into something that can be more for the masses, you know, like, because, you know, I tend to be super excited about these events that I do and everything, and I lose people as soon as I say, it's 12 hours or it's, or I'm carrying 30 pounds or you know, that's when people are like, automatically they go in their brain, no, that's insane. You know, I'll never do something like that. And they should, but how could we get to people to understand that a lot of these things, mountaineering, climbing a mountain, challenging yourself in a way you haven't before, changes you and changes you for the better. Because I've seen all these people that have done all these events with me, and they all change for the better. You know, I don't see anybody that all of a sudden becomes an asshole after doing these events, you know. So,
okay, well, you're right, 100%. But I want to speak to a couple of things that you said there. So the first thing I want to say is I teach wilderness survival.
Okay.
And very unlike the Agoge, I do not tell them when the event is over.
Okay.
If you need to know when the event is over, don't sign up for my class. Because a survival situation doesn't last 60 hours or 72 hours or 1 hour. It's You're in it until you're not in a survival situation anymore. You're in it until you're safe. So, you know, your car breaks down on the highway in the middle of the Sonoran Desert, and you know there's no other cars around. You're dealing with that situation until you're rescued. A plane crashes, something like that, or a boat sinks, and you're floating on a makeshift raft in the middle of the ocean. You don't count the hours down. You're there until you're rescued, or until you rescue yourself. So I think that one thing I would like to see people do is stop putting deadlines on things. And that's everything. Like, okay, I'm going to try this diet out for a month. Well, don't give it a deadline, because you already know that when you start a diet, like when you say I'm going to start a diet, when you say the word start, that also means that there's an end, right? If everything that starts has an end. So how about I'm just going to live differently? That's totally different, because that's not. So instead of coming to an Agoge event and go, all right, I'm just going to hang out for the 60 hours, and if I can endure the 60 hours, I've made it. Or if I can endure the 12 hours of the hurricane heat, I've made it. Well, you'll probably do very well during that time frame. But what if I told you you're here until I'm tired? That's a totally different thing. And so anyway, my wilderness survival classes are about that. But I want to touch on something you said, because you said, how can this appeal to the masses? How can more people do this? And I want to say for 1 second that let's just assume that we're not talking about an endurance event.
Mm-hmm.
Let's assume we're talking about life, because the reality of it is all these things translate to life. You made your transformations not because they were applicable to Spartan events, they were applicable to your life. And you took those lessons and put them to your life. But here's the thing. Did you get those lessons? Did that dawn on you simply because it occurred into your own mind? Or were you influenced or motivated by somebody else in the group? And so here's my point. Life hands us obstacles, and they can be anything. I gave the example of a couple that was struggling with divorce, but it could just be the same thing. What about an individual struggling with depression? What about an individual struggling with alcoholism, or they can't quit smoking, or they are having financial issues, or they lost their job, or they are not a good communicator, or maybe they have some problems with the law. The thing is, you put that person in a closet and they'll keep those problems. Those problems will remain with them forever. But you put that person in a group, and that person finds the dynamics to reach out to the group, because I promise you, you put one person in a group of 10 people, somebody in that group has dealt with financial problems before. Somebody in that group has probably quit smoking or quit drinking, or was able to stave off a divorce because of something that they did. The reality is, it's not that that person's going through a problem, it's how can they learn from other people how to overcome that problem. And the way we do it at the Agoge and in my survival classes and when I'm mountaineering is I try to find ways for people to connect with other people who have been through that same problem. Because the worst thing on the planet is two people walking together and they need each other, but neither of them are helping each other in any way. That's just dumb. So during the Agoge, we force that. We force you to communicate. We put problems on you that there's no way you can solve by yourself. You have to have the help of other people. And in the process of getting that help from other people, you realize that person has strengths that you don't have. And maybe they're weak in an area that you're strong. And so you get to step in and everybody gets to contribute. And when everybody's contributing, that's when lives change.
No, that's a great one, man. You're right.
Yeah, that's awesome. Right. And you're right. You know, it's a matter of, especially in this day and age, we live many times in isolation. I think that technology allows us to feel like we have this big group of friends, but in reality, we are not brave enough many times to say, hey, has somebody experienced this before? Has somebody gone through this before? You know, exposing our true selves becomes one of the biggest challenges and obstacles.
It really is.
That people have.
Yeah.
So I think what's amazing about what you do is that you allow people to be in a situation where it is a must to collaborate. It is a must to communicate and to seek for help, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're stuck in the mountain. And
exactly.
And I think what's beautiful here is that after they go through this process, those learnings stay with them, and they bring them home to apply them in every other area of their life.
If they use them.
Yes.
That's the thing. They have to use them. So it's interesting that you were saying, commenting about how connected we are, right? In today's world, we live in this, right now, who'd have thought 50 years ago that we'd be doing something on a computer that shows all of our faces and our audio in 3 different parts of the United States talking in real time.
Yeah.
It just didn't exist. I mean, how awesome could like the lunar landing projects or, you know, some of the other things have gone if everybody was this connected. But I also have the feeling that this hyper connectivity that we have is fake. It's a bubble. I'll give you an example. Let's say you're walking, pushing your shopping cart in a grocery store. And let's say you're on the right side of the aisle because you're getting peanut butter. And then all of a sudden you see on the left side of the aisle that your favorite breakfast cereal, and you pull the cart over to the left. You didn't put a turn signal on. You didn't look over your shoulder to make sure that nobody was there, and you cut somebody off. What are they going to do? They're just going to walk right past you and not say a thing, right? Usually. Maybe they'll go, whatever. But nobody's going to walk up and just, hey, dude, boom, and punch you in the face because you cut them off. Nobody's ever going to do that. However, juxtapose that same exact scenario. You're driving down the road. You cut somebody off. All of a sudden, they're honking their horn. They're up, their windows rolled down. They're flipping you off. Maybe they're following you to the parking lot that you go, and they get out and they say something or they throw something at you. It's this bubble that they think that they're in their car, that they're in a protected bubble, that they don't actually have to deal with the real problem. And now that they feel this protectionism that they can do whatever they want. So, but they would never do that in real life. They would never actually walk up to you and flip you off in the grocery store for cutting you off. They're just going to keep to themselves. So I think that's the problem with everything we deal with. Mm-hmm. You have to actually take the bubble off and communicate to somebody and be with them to solve any problem that we have. And that's what happens at Agoge, and that's what happens at a lot of other things. Is there is no bubble. We're forcing you to talk to these people. You have to talk to these people. You're on a team. You got to work together. And I think that's the same in anything. Team sports, anytime anybody is working together with people. 9/11 is a great example. There was no power. There was no emergency, but people were finding ways to communicate with each other. They were lowering the windows at apartment complexes and yelling, "What do you need? Water. Okay, I'll bring water down." There was no phone. There was no internet. They just did what they had to do, what they saw they had to do. So it's probably not a world-class example, but the concept behind that is that nothing gets done unless people communicate.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Mark, what has been your biggest challenge and struggle?
Oh gosh, I have lots of them. I was married and immediately, like within a couple of years, had 3 kids. I lost the manual on how to be a parent. There is no manual on how to be a good dad, and there's lots of struggles with that. Wasn't able to make enough money to really provide what I wanted to provide for my kids. None of them ever went without clothes or food, but you always want to do more for your kids. And pretty much all my life, I've always had to work harder than other people to achieve results. I'm not an educated man. I don't have any college experience. And so I've always just had, in a group of people, I've always just had to work harder than others. And that's kind of my goal. Anytime I'm in an event or something, my goal is to outwork everybody that's around me. And I've also discovered that I never want to be the smartest person in any room. If I'm the smartest person in the room, I go find a different room to be in, because I need to have people around me, because what do they say? You're the sum of your 5 best friends, right? So I try to put myself in the situation where those people that are around me are better, smarter, stronger, faster, because it's only going to make me better.
Because I think that's one of the biggest lessons, even for me, as I've grown as an entrepreneur, as an athlete. Most people don't seek that, though. Most people are comfortable kind of with their same circle of influence, for a long, long time. And then later on, it's very hard to change. So what do you think can help somebody that right now is listening or watching and that is feeling stuck in their same old group of people that he knows or she knows that are keeping them down or keeping them in the same place?
So I'd like to say that common sense prevails in things like that, but it doesn't. So Joe DeSena always says people need to be comfortable. They need to get comfortable being uncomfortable. And you said it. People are in a group of people because they're comfortable being there. You sit in a group of you sit in a room full of people that are smarter than you, or people that are more fit than you, or people that are, they have their whole life kind of going well. You find yourself being uncomfortable. Hey, I don't belong here. I'm not even in this guy's or these people's league. But think about this for a second, and I'm just going to put this towards bodybuilding. Because it all works on the law of progressive overload. So if you're working out and you want to gain size or strength in any given muscle, if you can lift 15 pounds, you need to lift 17 pounds in order for that muscle to grow. If that muscle can lift 15 pounds, it needs to lift more. It has to get to the point where it's overloaded. It fails, or else if you just lift 15 pounds every single time you go in the gym, you're never going to get stronger. You're never going to get faster. You're never going to get any size. So you have to lift more than what you think you can. And that's what all of these events push people to, is they're doing something that they didn't think they could, and is probably more than what they feel comfortable doing. I love Joe DeSena a lot, even though I no longer work for Spartan Race or work for him directly. Learned a lot from that guy. And I don't know if you've ever seen, he carries around this kettlebell.
Kettlebell, yeah.
Yeah. Why? Does he love kettlebells? Nah. Does he, is he trying to promote a kettlebell company or, act like he's a badass or something? No, it's just because it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable. And everybody goes, well, why doesn't he just, put it in a backpack and carry it around or ruck with it? Because a backpack puts the weight comfortably over both hips, both shoulders. You can make yourself be comfortable wearing a heavy backpack. You're just never comfortable carrying a kettlebell. Never. Because it's always pushing your body off to some weight. It's either in front of you or behind you or to the side. Some part of your body is always uncomfortable. And I remember the first time I saw Joe with the kettlebell was in China. We were at the China Agoge. We were standing in the middle of a cornfield. He had just told everybody to take their shoes off. And they were going to be going on to this thing, this module, and it was going to be many hours. And so he said he was heading back to kind of our base camp, and, hey, Mark, come with me. And I immediately reached to grab his kettlebell because he's my boss. So I'm going to carry the kettlebell. So I reached to grab it. He smacks my hand and said, that's mine. I'm like, I can help you carry that. He goes, no. And he never explained it to me. It was many, many months later that I realized he was trying to make himself uncomfortable.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right, man.
Who, has more money than God. And he's comfortable everywhere. He could be comfortable everywhere he goes, but he never flies first class, no matter how. Even though he can afford the ticket, he never, wears fancy clothes. He's always wearing some torn Carhartt set of jeans and a hoodie where it's dirty on one side or whatever, because he's not the guy that wants to be in a situation where he's always comfortable. He purposely puts himself to be uncomfortable. So, lesson from that is, if you're doing a job and you're like, well, I don't really want to do this because it'll rock the boat. Trust me, rocking the boat is good. Mm-hmm. If you want your career to expand, rock the boat. If you want to do something different with your life, get uncomfortable doing it. Joe DeSena, he loves to make people get barefoot, because in our lives, we walk around on these very soft, cushiony shoes, and we have clean socks on, and, our toasty little toes are always warm and comfortable. And he loves to make people get barefoot, because it's just an immediate shocker. Or he likes to put people in cold water, because immediately you're uncomfortable. But think about what you could do in your life without those things being elements. Everybody hears the term, that uncomfortable silence, right? Sometimes you ask your kids a question, and then there's that uncomfortable silence. Let it be uncomfortable. Because if you start answering for them or telling them what it is that they should be feeling, they don't get the chance to grow. Maybe there's something else that's uncomfortable. Maybe it's uncomfortable standing up in the boardroom at your office and making a presentation. Cool. Get uncomfortable. Do it. Because that uncomfortableness is going to make you grow. Maybe it's uncomfortable for an entrepreneur to stick his neck on the line and open a second location, or bring on another employee, or add an expense. Cool. If it's uncomfortable, you're probably going to grow from it. Yeah. So find a way to do that. And great examples is a neighbor of mine who runs a dry cleaning business. And for the longest time, I'm talking 20 years, he has had the same location. He and his wife work it. They've never hired employees. They've never taken a vacation. They just have been running this dry cleaning business by themselves for forever. And they were challenged by somebody. Hey, the dry cleaner across town is closing. There's no dry cleaners over in that part of town. You should open a second business over there and capture that market. Well, no, because if that other dry cleaning company closed, it's probably because that market's not very good. You don't know the reason they closed. You don't know that maybe they went through a divorce or had a bankruptcy or and it had nothing to do with business opportunities. Well, he bought that location, and he opened that location, and he forced himself to have to hire employees. His wife went to run that location. He runs the old location. So naturally, both of them had to hire help, and they found amazing people to help them. Now, those people are running the business. They can take vacations. They're making money more than they had before. Their opportunities are greater. They're thinking about opening a third location right now. But it was because they were uncomfortable for a minute.
Yeah.
So you just got to be uncomfortable.
And sometimes the biggest way to be uncomfortable, and it's starting to be an entrepreneur. Having the decision to follow your passion and say, I was actually talking to a friend that he studied to be a lawyer, and then he realized, listen, this is not really my passion. My passion is to have a computer tech business and open and help other people with their computers. And he's way more happier, and he's actually grown a lot as an entrepreneur just because he had that courage and that humbleness to say, I'm going to be uncomfortable and I'm going to open my own business,
Yeah, 100%. And that's true with so many other opportunities. But I got to tell you, when you're working in corporate America, and you have a steady paycheck, and a fairly comfortable salary, but you have this magical idea and you can make it on your own, it's really hard in today's world to leave that comfortable salary and leave that 9 to 5 that you're used to, that you're comfortable with, and start something on your own. But with the statistics of 78% of America is living paycheck to paycheck. You lose one paycheck, you lose your house.
Yep.
There's a lot of that going on. How much risk could there really be? I mean, if you're living like that, how much risk could there really be to start something that you're passionate about and that you'll crush?
Yeah, and it's a sense of false security, really, because
100%.
At any point, I think one thing that I've seen twice in my life already, you know, and I was in Silicon Valley in the early 2000s, right after college, and I was, you know, fresh graduate in Hewlett Packard, and I go into this big corporation where there were, you know, 20-year-old tenured engineers, and of course I'm the young kid that got on board with a very low salary. And as soon as the dot-com bubble burst, those years, they let go all the high-paid people, and guess who they kept? The kids that were fresh out of college that they were paying half.
Right.
So, you know, it was timing for me where I became an engineering manager in a matter of 2 years. And I was managing actually guys that were twice my age or almost 3 times my age, and had to be in this situation. And then again in 2008, you know, you see it again where people were very comfortable, were very cushy. What are the chances really that in the next few years we see it again, right? So I think I always say this, no matter if you're in corporate America or you're an entrepreneur, is like, dig your well before you're thirsty. Get yourself in a position that, yeah, it makes you, maybe you work a little harder. Maybe you have a side gig, just like you said. Maybe you start something new. At least explore your options so that you don't get caught by surprise if something completely out of your control happens in the next 5 years or a decade, right?
Right. Yeah, I hear you, and that's very good advice. And congratulations on being at the right place at the right time. Because remember, I said that's part of success, being in the right place at the right time. But is that an accident? No. Being in the right place is a choice you made.
Yep.
The right time isn't necessarily something you can control, but being in the right place is absolutely in your control.
Oh, it's huge. I think being ready for the opportunity is something that is huge, you know, and just like you say, all these events that you do and survival and mountaineering, and it's basically preparation for a moment, right?
Yes.
Preparation from an opportunity, because it could not necessarily be an outdoor event opportunity. It could be the biggest opportunity in your life, in business or in a relationship or in meeting somebody. You know, there's a guy that I follow, his name is Gary Vee, that says your next hello could be the one that changes your life.
Yes.
You might meet that partner in business that together you have so much chemistry and you click so much that you build something that you never thought was possible by yourself.
Yeah, I've always kind of had this phrase that I've lived by, and I don't know where I got it or if I made it up myself, but you're one smile away from your next success.
Yes, I love that.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. So what sort of advice, you know, I mean, you've given us plenty, but if you could give 1 or 2 things to somebody that's in the entrepreneur journey or thinking about it, what would you tell them?
It's very, very simple. And this is written on, I was going to say, is it written on the wall in here? But I actually think it is. We run an Airbnb, and this is the Airbnb room. And so we have a little ledger here that people can sign. And I have it written down in here too. And in my weight room, I have all these quotes all around. But here's the one piece of advice I give everybody about anything that they want to do. Here it is. Start where you are. Use what you have. Do what you can. That's it. Because if everybody goes, yeah, you know, I'm going to start this business when I have $10,000 in the bank or $50,000 in the bank, or I'm going to start this business when my kids are out of school, or I'm going to start this business when or I'm gonna do this when I've lost 30 pounds, whatever it is. You're not gonna do it because tomorrow doesn't come. You're not gonna start it tomorrow. You're not gonna start it whenever. Start right now, right where you are. I love Tony Horton. everybody laughs about Tony Horton with the Beachbody stuff, you know, because he's kind of cheesy and, you know, he's got these workout DVDs. But you know where he started? As a fat, overweight waiter in Santa Monica, California. And he said to himself, I want to inspire people to get a better fitness life. And guess what? I'm going to start with me. And he started working out on the beach and just inviting people to come with him. And he wasn't that fit. And then eventually he started coaching people. He became a personal trainer. By then he was fit, but he used what he had. What did he have? He lived in Santa Monica. There's a beach.
Yeah.
So he started where he was. He used what he had, and he just did what he could. He didn't start a gym and wait until he was ripped and had abs before he started looking for clients. He started right where he was. He used what he had, and he did what he could. I think that's the same in any entrepreneurial opportunity, anything. I mean, Apple was born in the guy's garage, for goodness sake. He didn't wait until he had an address in a shopping mall or a warehouse where he could build computers. He started building computers in his garage.
Yep.
Same thing with, I mean, I could go down the list with hundreds of examples of people, but the reality of it is you boil down anybody's success. They started where they were. They used what they already had at their disposal, and they did what they could.
That's awesome, Mark.
Amazing, man.
It's been, look, I've been kind of quietly writing down things you've said and quotes. So I already have enough to fill a wall right now. I'm thankful for the time you spend with us, brother. Looking forward to meet you soon and hopefully do one of these events with you. Ricardo.
Yeah, let us know when your nurse survival course is, man, in Utah. We'll love to come see you. Oh,
I would love to have you. If it sounds like we're coming to a close. So there's something very important I need to say before we close.
Please.
Yes.
You know, you said you were writing things down that I've said, and you know, Pablo, you said you've changed a lot, and you used some of my examples. I need to make sure that everybody in your audience is 100% clear that I'm nobody special. The things that I know, I've gleaned from other people. Every single event that I do, even if it's an event that I'm leading, I'm learning more from everybody else than they could possibly learn from me. The thing that makes me unique maybe is I take in what I've learned from other people. I bring it into myself, and then I apply it to my life, because it would make absolutely no good for me to take a swimming lesson from Phelps and then go back into the water and not do anything he told me to do. Wouldn't that be dumb? Yeah. I'm going to pay an Olympian to teach me how to swim, and then the next time I'm in the pool, I'm not going to do anything. So when I've been around amazing people like Joe DeSena, like Tony Horton, like Tony Robbins, like my dad, and like for you guys, your dad, because it sounds like he was an amazing example. And even tonight, I've learned things from both of you that if I don't take into my life will mean absolutely nothing. So the words that I've said, I'm hoping have inspired a few people. I'm hoping that you've seen, but I want it to be a reflection of the fact that I've been blessed enough to be around a lot of really cool people. And all the stuff I know is because I chose to surround myself with people that could inspire me and help me. And then I made the decision to use what I learned from them.
So very true.
Absolutely.
I say something all the time. It's like, never cease to be a student. You don't know what you don't know.
Right.
And there's really a never-ending opportunity to learn from people, to gather experience, and to always be on that place in your heart and in your mind that, look, it doesn't matter who it is across from you. Doesn't matter if they're rich or poor, or if they are experienced or just a kid. You can learn from that person. Right?
Absolutely.
Pay attention, watch, absorb, listen more than you speak. And I mean, it's been an amazing pleasure, man, to listen to you. And I know this is not going to be the last one, because I can tell you already we're going to have a bunch of requests of bring that Petersen guy back on the channel very soon.
I would be honored. I certainly would. But you gotta just remember this, that I learned more from you guys tonight than you probably ever learned from me. So,
no, man, thanks so much. Appreciate you. I'm glad you and Ricardo cross paths, man.
Yeah, no, thank you, brother. You've done a lot for me, and I hope we can bring some value to our audience, and they can realize what can be done with their lives if they just try a little bit and get out of their comfort zone, you know.
Thank you for that, and that's very good advice. I'm gonna say one last little quote that I got from my dad. And he always, and for anybody who's struggling with anything right now, I mean, an illness, financial issue, any kind of struggle, just try to remember this one phrase: asking for a stronger back has more advantages than asking for a lighter load. So don't look at this problem and go, oh, I wish this problem would go away. The better thing to say is, I wish I could be stronger enough to deal with this problem. That's better than I want the problem to be easier. It's always better to ask for a stronger back than to ask for a lighter load.
That's awesome.
That's awesome, man.
Man, and with that, appreciate you tons, man. Have a wonderful night. And
thank you, Mark.
We'll see you very, very soon.
Hopefully, you're not too far away in Colorado. You can drag yourself over to Utah.
Yeah. No, I will.
Matter of fact, I'm dead middle between the both of you. You guys.
Yeah, dude. Let us know, man. Let us know. We'll come see you for sure.
Yeah, I know. And Mark, if you're ever down here in Denver, man, come stay at my house. It'd be a pleasure to have you.
I would.
Yeah. Well, Mark has an overdue trip to Ecuador, so we're gonna plan it, man.
Oh, don't tempt me. I want to go. You would have no idea. I've never been to Ecuador. I've always wanted to go.
Big mountains there, my friend.
Yes,
big
there
mountains
are.
There.
Yeah, a little bit of everything. Ecuador has everything.
Yes.
Yep.
Pretty cool.
We'll be happy to be your tour guides.
I would love that. I would love that.
Thank you, my friend.
Okay, guys. Thank you very much.
Awesome, brother. Have a good night, guys.
See ya.
Thanks, man. Bye.